world wars did not treat sliced white bread too well. The world wars did not treat sliced white bread too well. White bread is still associated with class, just not the higher one. Fitness guru Bernarr Macfadden thought white bread was one of the worst things people could eat. As one of the most popular men in fitness in the 1930s, Bernarr Macfadden represented the healthiest of the healthy. His exercise regimen and diet were the model of self-improvement he sold to the masses. Macfadden believed any disease could be cured by fasting. Tight clothing was bad, physical activity stimulated the brain, meat should be eaten in moderation, people only needed 2 meals a day, and that white bread was one of the worst things a person could eat. He claimed he had been made ill by white bread and fought a campaign against the staff of death that weakened people who ate it. Macfadden practiced what he preached and wrote numerous books about food, health, and exercise during his life. He also had fitness followers and food groupies, including his student Charles Altus and the better-known Jack LaLanne. Both men shunned white bread as well. Wonder Bread was a 20th century grocery store marvel that entered right into bread's sordid cultural associations. Wonder Bread was first produced in the 1920s by the Hostess Company. However, in the 1930s, Wonder Bread really hit the market as a large, convenient loaf of bread. Other store-bought breads were only £1, whereas Wonder Bread was £1.50 for pure carby goodness. More importantly, it was sliced into standardized pieces. Mechanized slicing was invented in 1917 by Otto Rowett, but it wasn't introduced into factories into 1928. With the ideal loaf, Wonder Bread white, fluffy, prepackaged, and pre-cut represented American progress and perfection, and was an edible work of art. The marketing for Wonder Bread contributed to this idea. The unnaturally vibrant colors of the logo and visual purity of this new, virgin white, 1.5-pound loaf perfectly evoked the otherworldliness of the enormous manufacturing system that was seen as America's future. The pure food and drug movement and white bread were made for each other. One demonized immigrants, the other provided a solution. With growing concerns about food, the so-called pure foods and drug movement of the mid to late 19th century led to increased oversight of food production by the U.S. government. The federal government began regulating food and drug quality in the 1840s, and states started to supervise food and drug production during the 1880s. Food safety legislation and the mass production of bread in factories grew side by side. Bread made in factories was safe because it wasn't touched by human hands, especially those of an immigrant, a big relief to the carbohydrate-consuming xenophobes, and was wrapped to keep it clean. However, according to Sylvester, white bread was a sign of laziness. White bread was not without its early naysayers, however. Presbyterian minister and health reformer Sylvester saw loaves of white bread as tasteless, susceptible to additives like chalk, clay, and plaster, and misleading to consumers. By making loaves of white bread bigger and heavier, people were being duped into thinking they were getting more and better bread, but they were not. Graham's alternative was to make bread at home with rich, coarse ingredients. One author exalted Graham's ideas and offered a recipe in 1839. It is an excellent article of diet for the dyspeptic and the costive, and for most persons of sedentary habits, would be beneficial. It agrees well with children, And, in short, I think it should be used in every family, though not to the exclusion of fine bread. Take 6 quarts of this wheat meal, 1 teacup of good yeast, and half a teacup of molasses. Mix these with a pint of milk, warm water, and a teaspoonful of perlash or saleratus. Make a hole in the flour, and stir this mixture in the middle of the meal till it is like batter. Then proceed as with fine flour bread. Make the dough when sufficiently light into 4 loaves, which will weigh 2 pounds per loaf when baked. It requires a hotter oven than fine flour bread, and must bake about an hour and a half. Graham bread is the predecessor of the modern graham cracker. Local neighborhood bakeries made dark bread and were usually owned by immigrants, which led to some strange bread xenophobia. Around the turn of the 20th century, going to the corner store to buy bread meant buying it from an immigrant. After the Bakery and Confectionery Workers International Union of America formed in 1886, many local chapters were dominated by immigrants. For example, in 1903, German immigrant bakers made up many of the members. German bread was coarse, unrefined, and dark, which was also considered dirty like the immigrants who made it, so the racist, xenophobic line of thinking went, and it symbolized lower-class living. Bread in bakeries was also left out in the open, which made it susceptible to dirt, germs, and other possible health risks. The weird white bread, white bodies connection began because white bread was considered clean, healthy, and safe because of its color. The weird white bread, white bodies connection began because white bread was considered clean, healthy, and safe because of its color.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the support and likes and comments down below, and also thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to see you in the next video. Then take care, bye.